Corey, obviously, we know you are the branding expert. And when we were talking about this episode, your eyebrows go up. No, you really are. We were talking about this episode, and one thing I wanted to dive straight into with you is the core values of design, because I think I can say that as designers, we tend to just default to whatever our name is. So it's
Hmm.
Katie Erickson Design. It's safe, especially when you're striking out on your own. It feels
Yeah.
good. Everyone knows it's you.
Yeah.
Uh, and it feels like a good spot. But as we grow, mature, and change, we may want to stick with that. And then we have some built in brand value. But by the same token, we may not. And
Yeah.
so, diving in from that standpoint, what are people, especially designers, missing, or what do they really need to be thinking about when talking about branding their business? Because brands have value.
Right. So I actually teach a class called Ad Design, and we do a self promo project in that class. And I always tell students you can use your name, you can use your initials, but proceed with caution because your name may change at some point. If you get
Oh,
married, you might change your name. So um, the other thing to think about is our name is interesting to us. It may not be interesting to other people necessarily. So it's very
that's a great
memorable
point.
for us. I had a student several years ago. His name was Cody Smith. And I said, Cody, I love you. You're a unique guy, but your name is not unique at all. So if you,
I
if you
love
have
the
a really
honesty.
if you have a really special
Uh,
name, it might work for you. The
yeah.
other thing to think about is if you end up expanding your business, maybe not everyone wants to work under your name. Now, if you form a partnership, maybe that's a different situation. But I always tell people to pick something that is a mnemonic device, that's memorable, that's catchy, that you can get the Instagram for, you can get the domain name for,
Mm,
all those types of things. Just because you may not want to have your personal name and your personal brand attached to your company
hmm.
necessarily, so it allows for some separation there as well.
And I can hear our audience members going, but Corey, I've already done my name. Now what?
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, a lot of people grow up sketching their own initials, and so they feel invested in that monogram they've made of their initials, or
Sure.
really the investment they've made in a community to build trust and things.
Mm,
I would say starting out, like if you're in a small community, if you had a name, you could say, this is my company, and go ahead and still associate yourself with that brand in a pretty significant way. But as you would start to branch out and do more national or international work, then you're just leading with whatever name, whatever moniker you've selected. Because yeah, I would agree. I mean, your name does have value. I mean, that's where your integrity lies, is in
sure.
your name. But
Sure.
that's not necessarily what you want to have as your business, as the face of your business. So.
Is there a magic tipping point? Is it onboarding employees or contractors, or what kind of is the tipping point where you should really take pause and not necessarily not use your name anymore, but just have that evaluation moment of now would be a good time if we're going to make this transition to do so, or if we're not, we have a good reason why.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, thinking about bands, so sometimes bands will put out
Hmm.
indie albums and they get really popular, but then they meet with the producer and they say, if you're going to really go places, you need to change your name. And that's a difficult thing. But I feel like if you can sort of create a milestone or a benchmark, maybe it's a new client, maybe it's launching into a new segment or with a
Mm,
different geographic region in the country, those milestones might make that a better case. But we do always talk about when we're rebranding
mm.
the the difference between innovation and familiarity. So in that balancing act. So it could be like you've been using a mark with a particular color palette, and you could roll that color palette into your new name. So you still
Mm.
have some kind of tie-in with familiarity, so you're not frightening off your existing customer base.
That's a really delicate balance. I've never even
It
thought
is.
about that innovation versus familiarity and how you balance those moving forward in a productive way. What
Yeah.
else do we need to think about? Like, I know you have a top 10 list that I think is really helpful of what you need to know when you get ready to brand.
Yeah, so I think starting at the top, I mean, just to identify yourself. And
Hmm.
so your brand, your mark is a symbol of your quality, essentially.